The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy and the US Defense Secretary Lloyd have used their final monthly meeting to press the incoming Trump administration to keep up Kyiv's fight against Russia. They issued a warning saying that to cease military support now will only invite more aggression, chaos and war. Austin also announced the US would send another $500 million in security assistance to Ukraine, including missiles and equipment for fighter jets, armoured bridging systems and small arms and ammunition. Talks are being held with key allies of Ukraine at the Ramstein air base in southwestern Germany. Now, Ukraine's president has been speaking in Ramstein, saying that big changes lie ahead for allies in Europe.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear our friends, it's clear that a new chapter starts for Europe and the entire world just 11 days from now, at a time when we have to cooperate even more, rely on one another even more, and achieve even greater results together. And we've come such a long way that it would honestly be crazy to drop the ball now and not keep building on the defense coalitions we've created.
Let's get more from DW correspondent Teri Schultz, who's at the US military base in Ramstein, where today's meeting is taking place. Teri, tell us first of all what President Zelenskyy needs to get out of this meeting today.
Well, one of the first things President Zelenskyy needs is to know that there will be more meetings like this. The Ukraine Defense Contact Group was created by U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd, and this is his last meeting. He spoke about that somewhat sentimentally here today, that he won't, of course, be attending any more of these meetings. But more importantly, we don't even know if there will be more of these meetings that were so important. Every month, Secretary Austin would call up allies and partners and ask what more they can give to Ukraine. And then they would meet and try to make sure that those systems complement each other, make sure that what's being promised is actually getting to Ukraine. No one knows what's going to happen with this group. So that's the first thing I'm sure Zelenskyy is speaking about with his friends here today. Beyond that, of course, he's asking for more air defense, as we know. It's so important heading into winter that Ukraine is able to better protect itself from the constant assault from the sky that Russia is raining on its infrastructure and its population. He also talked a lot about how important drones are in Ukraine's war against Russia, and about how he would like European manufacturers to put money into producing those inside Ukraine to shorten the amount of time it takes to get them actually into the hands of Ukrainian soldiers.
Now, you mentioned it, Teri. We all know that Donald Trump will become US president in less than 2 weeks. Give us a sense of how that fact is influencing this gathering.
Well, that's hanging over the entire meeting. As I said, we don't even know if there will be another meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group. As President Zelenskyy said, it would be stupid to drop all of this progress that they've made, this system that they've set up, the sort of collaboration that happens not just with the 32 NATO allies, but with almost 20 other countries coming together monthly to support Ukraine. So for Ukraine, it's essential that this continue in some form. We just don't have any idea whether a European will take over the role that Lloyd Austin has played. That's not clear at all, not to Ukraine and not to the Europeans either.
The US has, of course, been Ukraine's biggest single wartime backer until now. There's not a lot more the Biden administration can do before the new president takes over, is there?
Well, Lloyd Austin today says that they've done everything they can. He even said they've moved heaven and earth to put Ukraine in the best position possible under the Biden administration. And as you mentioned earlier, he did announce a new $500 million package, including more air defense, more air to missiles, and you know, hopes to very much give the last remaining pieces that the Biden administration can. We know that Lloyd Austin is trying to rush those to Ukraine as fast as possible and make sure that everything that was promised under this administration actually arrives in Ukraine. But you're right. They've got, 12 days left. There's not a lot more they can do. And that's why this meeting was so important both for Secretary Austin and for President Zelenskyy, who doesn't usually attend these meetings in person.
Teri, thank you so much for that update. That's DW's Teri Schultz in Ramstein, Germany.
It's the last such gathering for U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin before Donald Trump takes office later this month. One focus will be air defense. Zelenskyy wants more of it. Both the U.S. and Germany have already provided Patriot anti-aircraft systems to Ukraine. The U.S. has supplied ATACMS long-range missiles and given Kyiv permission to fire them into Russian territory. Germany has also provided Gepard anti-aircraft tanks and Iris anti-aircraft systems. Ukraine's partners have given more than $120 billion worth of military aid since Russia's full-scale invasion nearly 3 years ago. About half that amount has come from the U.S. and another 25% from Germany, which is Ukraine's second biggest backer. Well, beefing up Kyiv's arsenal of modern anti-missile and anti-drone weaponry could also reduce pressure on Ukraine's mobile air defense units. Such units move quickly and must make the most of existing weapons. DW correspondent Sonia Phalnikar was given a closer look at how they operate.
They fight in the skies over Ukraine every single night. Mobile air defense units like these take on deadly Russian air attacks. These units are not as sophisticated as the Western-provided Patriot or Iris-T systems, but they're cheaper and can move quickly. Outside Kyiv, this group uses two different weapon systems. A Turkish-supplied heavy machine gun modeled on its better-known American counterpart, the M2 Browning, to shoot down drones.
The main goal is to shoot down targets flying at low altitude. We have thermal imaging on it, which allows us to detect, make corrections, and destroy the target.
And they also use this, the portable Soviet-era Igla, similar to the American-made Stinger anti-aircraft missile system. It's capable of shooting down cruise missiles as well.
After finding the target, the missile emits a sound and light signal. A green flashlight lights up here. This means you can shoot at the target.
This unit was put together just months after Russia's full-scale invasion. They had just 3 days to train on the weapons before being pulled into the fighting.
There are a lot of attacks now. They are massive. They can even last all day.
Even when air defense teams like these successfully shoot down a missile, there's danger from the fiery wreckage of their target. Falling missile and drone debris often kill people and damage buildings and infrastructure.
There are cases when we shoot a Shahed drone, but it flies for another 5 to 10 kilometers. Then at one point it falls. Recently, a girl died near Zelenskyy. I read the comments. It's terrible. People say the military is to blame. But how many people would a missile destroy if it hits its target in Kyiv, Dnipro, or Odessa?
After nearly 3 years of war, the men here say they need more ammunition and weapons to continue countering Russian attacks. And they say there's one more thing that's just as important.
People have to understand that this is a war. And in order to end it, we need to mobilize so that people can be rotated, so that when we are given weapons, we can train and have the opportunity to defend ourselves with these weapons.
Talks with Western allies may result in more weapons, but it will still be Ukrainians themselves who'll have to take the personal risks on the front lines.
DW's Sonia Phalnikar filed that report, and earlier she told me more about Ukraine's serious manpower shortages.
Well, Ukraine has really been struggling to, replenish its ranks and rotate exhausted troops off the front. This has become a very pressing issue. Reports suggest that most new recruits now are quite old. They're above 45. They're unmotivated. There's a recent report here that said that a brigade, a Ukrainian brigade that was trained in France and provided with Western weapons, a lot of people from that brigade reportedly deserted. The Ukrainian media has talked about some problems with managing and staffing some units. So I think all this adds to this picture of people here now being reluctant to sign up, the army, running out of willing recruits. And this is, despite publicity campaigns by various brigades, the Ukrainian parliament in summer lowered the call-up age from 27 to 25. It also added additional penalties for those trying to dodge the draft. When you speak to ordinary Ukrainians here, of course, people understand that, there is a need to draw more young men to the army. But I think this mobilization policy is quite unpopular. There are reports of young men trying to hide from recruitment officers, leaving the country in the thousands to try and evade the draft. And this issue of manpower shortage now has become an irritant with Ukraine's ties to the US. President Zelenskyy has, resisted public calls by the Biden administration to further lower the mobilization age to 18. This is a sensitive issue in Ukraine, given that the country already, faces a demographic crisis.
Sonia, I want to ask you about the recent attack on the city of Zaporizhia. It was one of the deadliest attacks on civilians in recent months. What more can you tell us about it?
That's correct. I mean, the regional governor in Zaporizhia says this attack happened yesterday in the middle of the afternoon. It hit several residential buildings and an industrial facility. The debris from these guided bombs that were used apparently also struck a tram, injuring and killing passengers. Now, President Zelenskyy yesterday reacted to this attack, saying, there is nothing more cruel than bombing a city, he said, knowing that ordinary civilians will suffer. He said Russian terror has to be stopped. And it has to be said that Russia has been using these guided bombs. They're these highly destructive, precision-guided munitions. Russia has been using them to hit Ukrainian border cities like Sumy and Kharkiv, but also Zaporizhia, which borders Ukrainian, occupied land in the south. President Zelenskyy has now said that he would be, urging his partners today at a meeting in Ramstein in Germany to boost Ukraine's capabilities to try and protect Ukraine from these destructive bombs, which are quite difficult to intercept with air defense missiles.
Well, Sonia, just what are the expectations for this meeting at the U.S. airbase in Ramstein here in Germany? I mean, we know that Donald Trump is about to take office at the end of January. What could Ukraine hope for?
Well, I think the summit comes at a really crucial moment for Ukraine, given that the war is now kind of approaching its third-year mark. Ukraine is, continuing to lose ground in the east to Russian forces. Its leaders are now under pressure to negotiate as Donald Trump, as you said, gets set to enter the White House. Trump has, of course, said he wants to get the U.S. out of Russia's war in Ukraine. He wants to negotiate a quick peace deal. And I think there is a feeling here now in Ukraine, despite all the pledges of support that you'll see today at Ramstein, there is a lot of uncertainty here about, what comes next, whether the U.S. will continue to back Ukraine militarily in a robust manner.
Thank you for that, Sonia. That was DW's Sonia Phalnikar reporting for us from Kiev. We appreciate it.